Welcome to the CCFR Radio Podcast, your source for news, updates, and stories from the CCFR.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 135 of the CCFR Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Rod Giltaka. Thanks for joining me again today on the show. It's going to be very exciting. I'm very excited about it because we get to talk about some good news for once, right? 7 long years of liberal rule. Feels like we're always losing, but it turns out that what we're doing is actually making a difference, and we have indicators of that. So I can't wait to talk about that with you. And of course, what most people are waiting for is for us to unveil our ScrapC21 campaign. You're going to get all those answers today, and you're going to have screenshots and everything to show you what you have at your disposal for the next phase of our resistance against Bill C-21 and its amendments. Okay, so before we get started, I'd like to thank some of the companies in our community that make the CCFR Radio Podcast possible. A big thank you to our friends over at the Saskatchewan Rivers chapter of Safari Club International. They do a lot of great work over there, including supporting the CCFR. So make sure you check them out at saskriverssci.com. That's saskriverssci.com. And Vortex, the force of optics. We'd like to thank our friends over at Vortex Canada for continuing to support the podcast and providing great products. You can check all that out at vortexcanada.net. That's vortexcanada.net. And to our friends over at CTOMS. CTOMS Academy provides life-saving training in trauma care and human performance, perfect for outdoor enthusiasts, for hunters, for shooters. You can check them out at ctomsinc.com. That's ctomsinc.com. All right, we're back. So before I bring Tracy on and share some of the good news and obviously our ScrapC21 campaign with you, I just got something I want to share with you. It's kind of neat. So I got some information sent to me by Lee over at Delask Arms last week. And they were contacted via email for a survey that a university in British Columbia was doing. And, you know, I looked at that and I said, oh, I'll put that on the podcast and on TV. I didn't have time for TV because I just finished filming that format. We had so much to talk about, and it's like 22 and a half minutes. It's just impossible to get everything packed in there. But the podcast, of course, you can. So I've got that for you now. And then in the morning, what I do is I make my coffee and I flip through Twitter while I'm sitting on the couch drinking my coffee. And Twitter knows what I'm looking for, obviously, right? The algorithm's quite sophisticated and it's feeding it to me. And I use that to see if I'm missing any news and missing something, and then I can get on with my day. So I saw something on Twitter. I'm like, man, this compared, coupled with what I was going to talk about on the podcast today, it's just, this is what we're living in. So here's how I'll explain it. In our business, we watch what the government does, how it behaves, the things that it says, the messaging is pushing out there. And of course, the government engages in disinformation 24/7. Like we don't want to admit it. We don't want to say that too often because it sounds crazy. It's just like, that's what they do. They say things that are demonstrably untrue, lies. They know it. It's not like they're, unintentionally, I made a mistake. That's not what they do. We see it go on every single day and just keep pushing these talking points. And the media is 85% complicit in that, unqualified number. 85, I would say 85%. They're like, yeah, no problem. We'll keep feeding them and you keep feeding us. All right, it's a symbiotic relationship. And more now than ever, obviously, right? It's now that there's a lot of funding floating around and that times are tough. So anyway, every once in a while, you'll see that reflected back at you from people, even in your personal life. Someone will say, what do you think of that mass shooting down in the United States? That makes you feel uncomfortable as a gun owner, probably, right? And you're like, well, what does that got to do with Canadian licensed gun owners? Like, there is no connection whatsoever. Like, why would you even say that? Right? It gets reflected back because it does work, right? It works on 30-40% of the population, right? They're soft. And, it's the appeal to authority. When the authority tells you something, you want to believe it because you're like, I don't want to believe that all these people are up to no good. They're just there to, line their own coffers or whatever, right? Unfortunately, that's the reality. And so anyway, but you see it online a lot, right? So you see that reflected back. So I just wanted to share this. So this is an email that Lee at Delask Arms sent us, and I'm just going to read a little bit of it. Check it out. So my name is blank. I'm a research assistant at a university. I'm contacting you because we're conducting a study that may be relevant to your customers' client or to customers or clients of your business and would like to inquire if you'd be willing to help us recruit potential participants. Through our study, we are hoping to gain a better understanding of how illegal firearms are being acquired and traded in British Columbia. Okay? If you read down, it says, to be eligible in this survey/study, members must meet these criteria. 19 years or older, currently reside in BC, have knowledge about guns, including how they are bought, sold, or traded legally and or illegally in British Columbia, or have been charged with or convicted of a weapons-related criminal offense. And it's like, you look at this and you're like, well, wait a minute. Why do you think licensed gun owners are going to be familiar with smuggling firearms or trafficking in illicit guns? Why would they be the experts? Like, there's no reason you would even, like, I don't even know how that's done. I'm reflecting back on what I've heard from sources that I think are credible. It's just interesting. And how would you have a licensed gun owner that has a criminal history of weapons-related offenses? Like, it's possible for minor offenses after probably a 10-year firearm prohibition and proving to the government that you're worthy of that level of trust again. But aside from that, like, no, that's never even going to happen. But what would make them believe that that's true? What would make them believe that coming to licensed gun owners is the place to know about, to get the ins and outs of criminal activity? That's a result of the government and and the media, how they propagandized individual people. And it's throughout our educational system too, the institutions, right? So anyway, if that wasn't enough, I'm scrolling through Twitter this morning and I see Pierre Poilievre, as you know, is the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. And Pierre is different than the other past leaders, the recent leaders, in that he's not sidestepping the gun issue, he's taking it head on. So Pierre does this video. I'm not going to play you the video or whatever, right? But he does this video where he's talking to some IPSC IPSC shooters, some competitive pistol shooters, about what it takes to maintain a license, what you got to do with how you got to safely store or transport your firearms, what it means to you, all that stuff, right? Like going to the source, going to someone that is a real expert on legal firearms ownership, and puts that video out there. And it's great because he's like, hey, Justin Trudeau thinks these people are dangerous. And he thinks that repeat violent criminals should have same-day bail, whatever, right? So this guy, check this out. This guy retweets it and says, hard to understand why @CPCHQ thinks this is a winner. Right after 33 mass shooting in USA, I don't get it. Well, I don't think Terry gets a lot. I don't think he understands much, but it's interesting because if you were to ask Terry, like, tell me what the connection between multiple victim public shootings in the United States are with licensed gun owners in Canada. Like, explain that for me. That's the propaganda breaking people, weak people, right? That 30-40% of people susceptible to this kind of brainwashing, this kind of psychological manipulation. Terry, whatever his name is there. That's what you see coming back at you. So it's just interesting. And the only thing I want to add to this is when you're looking at the motivation, the Liberals' war on legal gun owners, probably for two reasons. Elites don't believe anyone should have guns but them. And the second reason is there's a political advantage to have because it's a divisive issue. When it's divisive, then it's useful to them. It's urban voters versus suburban and rural voters. Right? Big cities where there's tons of ridings, we're going to grab those. So we need a villain, right? Fear doesn't work without a villain. So those are the two reasons they do that. And it doesn't work for them. It won't work unless they can make a connection to mass shootings in the US and firearm ownership and licensed gun owners. Firearm-related violence in Canada and licensed gun owners. Because everything they're doing to us. They're not doing anything to criminals, right? And I'll have that conversation with literally anybody in the country. So it won't work unless they can connect that in the minds of people. And then sometimes you see that. You see that obviously now in the universities, and you see it in some clown with a Twitter feed, right? And he gets savagely ratioed. I think it was like 350 comments, replies to, it was like, I don't know, 89 likes or whatever. And he actually replied. He actually went back and forth with a few people, and he's 100% confident in the incorrect knowledge that he has. But that's not uncommon, certainly on this issue. Anyway, I thought it was interesting. And that in itself is the part that's starting to collapse on the Liberals. There are less and less soft boiled minds like Terry's out there. People are starting to get it. They're like, oh, okay, you know what? I don't think these people here in this video from Pierre Poilievre are the ones that are shooting up, downtown Toronto. And I don't think cracking down on them is going to help. You know what? I don't believe that anymore. So what we're doing as a community is working, and it's changing things. Anyway, we're going to talk more about that with Tracy, so let's get her on right now. All right, via Skype, we've got Tracy Wilson of the CCFR. Wilson!
That's a good one, Giltaka.
Oh, yeah. That's how I feel. It's like,
I don't feel that way.
Yeah, well, what's going on with you? What happened to your complexion? Were you too close to the microwave? What happened to you? Are you all right?
I packed a bathing suit, and Colin and I went and found a beautiful tropical beach and drank pina coladas for a week. So this is the end result.
That's awesome. I feel pasty.
You're just jealous.
No, I'm actually pasty.
Yes,
I don't see the sun much.
I'm jealous.
Well, I'm in BC, right? So it's just been raining since, the end of October. So this is what I look like a little pink-eyed rat kind of scurrying out. Anyway, all right. I know that a lot of people are waiting to hear the big news about our ScrapC21 project, and we have all of that and more for you today, which is awesome. We just want to discuss one story that of big significance. Actually, it's great significance that happened just before we get to that. So I'm going to get you to explain this stuff. I think you got it all on your phone. But basically, Marco Mendicino has been flying all over the country doing damage control and photo ops, which they call consultations when they do something wrong. And he ended up on the request of the Liberal Yukon MP Brendan Hanley, went up to Yukon to meet with a bunch of folks. And there were some interesting quotes that came out in a news story up there from it.
Yeah, that's right. So it's pretty wild. So he went up there, met with the Liberal MP. And it's funny, that Liberal MP has actually been pretty vocal, saying that he was not going to support C21, his own government's bill, which is a pretty big deal. But he won by such a slim margin. He's a very vulnerable rural riding. So they met with the Canadian Rangers, which is a branch of the CAF. They also met with the Yukon Fish and Game Association, the Council of First Nations, and then did some sort of roundtable with a variety of gun owners. And it's funny, actually, he's got some pictures on Twitter, on Marco's Twitter, where he's literally standing within probably 2.5 feet of a guy holding a scoped rifle. Like, I couldn't believe it. There he was. Yeah, standing right there. Near a gun owner. It was crazy. But yeah, there's some really fun quotes here. And although I live in the city now, this is where I live because I got to be here, but I've been a hunter for a long time. And it's funny to hear this guy's quotes, Marco, coming from, downtown Toronto. And he's got this kind of language. Let me read it for you. Getting out on the land, Mendicino said in an interview, I was able to experience, along with members of the community, how firearms are used safely and responsibly. Like as if he didn't know that.
Yeah.
As if this is breaking news for him.
Nobody told him that before. Nobody. He was unaware, completely unaware, that firearms used by licensed gun owners are used safely and responsibly 99.99985% of the time.
Yeah.
This is news. This is news to him. He never heard me or everybody else that went through the committee for Bill C21 or C71 or everything, all the work, advocacy and public relations work that the CCFR has done in the last 7 years, or that the Wildlife Federations have done, or any other gun group, and all the individual gun owners, hunting groups. Nope. This never occurred to him. But now, thank goodness that some political pressure was applied and that they could feel it. Now he's come to this conclusion. I just think that's interesting.
Well, it is. He actually goes on to say even more. Mendicino acknowledged that firearms are part of the fabric of Northern life, and I was able to experience that firsthand. So not only were they used safely and responsibly, but they're really important to the people who own them. Whether it be north or south, doesn't matter. But it's like he didn't know any of that either.
Yeah. Just incredible, right? But like a month and a half ago, the most important people in the country were urban voters in downtown Toronto and Montreal. Now that it's going bad for them, now he's worried about northern communities as part of their identity. And maybe if he keeps flying around on the government's dime, he'll end up in southwestern British Columbia. And maybe my life will be important to him and my property and in the fabric of, and he'll discover that I use firearms safely and responsibly. It's just it's very easy to be
Maybe.
cynical. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we could laugh at this clown all day long, but I am thankful. I'm grateful that this is becoming part of the public conversation about this. So I'm grateful for that. Let's look at the good side.
Yeah. Well, speaking of good side, it says here that Mendocino also committed to protecting the fundamental hunting rights for all Canadians. So you've got a chance. There's still a chance for you. And that gun ban exemptions for sport, hunting, and collecting are all on the table. So he's trying to ban all these guns, but he's saying, there's some legitimate legal reasons why Canadians might own firearms, like possibly sport shooting, hunting, collecting, basically what it is now.
Yep. Maybe the Liberals will come up with a licensing system and safe storage and transportation and display regulations.
I don't know.
Maybe and maybe they'll regulate shooting range. Like it's all this BS all the way around, like an oval track racing, racing day. The same car comes all the way around after all this energy's been expended, comes right around back to the first point again. That's what I don't know. It's very difficult not to just run up and down these people.
Well, and here's the thing. It's not, this isn't the first time that they've, done sort of consultations. Now, are they effective? Do they listen to the expert voices that they go and speak to? I don't know. What's your experience with that?
Well, as you well know, we were involved in Bill Blair when he spent millions of taxpayer dollars flying around the country with a huge entourage and a consultant, of course. Consultant there. But they actually did a really great job. So if you remember, it was part of his mandated consultation with Canadians to find out whether or not we needed more gun control. And of course, they played all their games that they do. They held one in Vancouver. A week later, 4 days later, they announced one in Toronto and then invited me 24 hours before. They didn't invite me to the one in Vancouver, knowing full well they know exactly where I am.
They know where you are.
A major pain in the ass. I've been told by people, his staffers, actually. They all seem to think I'm the devil, and you too, for some reason. And they know exactly where I live, but they invite me to the one in Toronto, 24-hour notice. So I just packed a bag and went. Right.
Well, they were hoping that you weren't going to go.
Of course,
right?
Yeah,
That's
a big game.
They left you out of the Vancouver one, which was in your neighborhood, and then totally invite you to Toronto.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did it.
Well, they probably hadn't
and
heard of the CCFR or knew that we had something to do with firearm advocacy.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so the whole point of that is that I remember talking about it. I don't know if we had the podcast then, probably, but I remember talking, like, it was awesome. It's like they had victims groups, they had everybody there. And the only people wanting gun bans, not the victims groups, the only people wanting a gun ban was Wendy Sukier for the
Coalition for Gun Control.
Everybody else was like, that doesn't make any sense. And I was sitting, I physically, I don't want to go on too long, right? Because people are waiting for the big news, but I was physically sitting next to a victims group. And we had a chance to talk. I'm like, listen, this is what the system is today. This is what I got to go through just to be able to take my AR-15 to the range and shoot some rounds, or my handgun. And this is the storage requirement. And they're like, yeah, well, that makes sense. As long as we're regulating these things, I'm like, yeah, that's the real conversation Canadians need to have. And they weren't on the side of the Coalition for Gun Control. It was her by herself. And that wasn't the only victims group there.
Well, that's exactly right. And I've noticed that as well. I went to the summit in 2017 here in Ottawa, hosted by Ralph Goodale, if you want to reach back that far. And I sat with... they sat me at a table with a bunch of law enforcement and the parents of murdered children, and none of them asked for a gun ban either. Nobody's ever asked for a gun ban except the anti-gun lobby groups.
Yeah. And and I guess the point of all this was they do all these things. They put out, actually, in the case of my consultation, they put out an excellent report.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What was it? You have the title of that.
Yeah, the Engagement Summary Report, Reducing Violent Crime, a Dialogue on Handguns and Assault-Style Rifles.
And I think you're going to post that up on firearmrights.ca again.
Yeah, I'm going to refresh it up there because here's the thing that's really important. It's the biggest engagement of Canadians as far as, any kind of survey or polling or whatever. The antis are always throwing around their polls saying 80% of Canadians want gun bans. And meanwhile, they've pulled, a couple hundred people online or something. This was, I think, 140,000 Canadians were consulted on what kind of measures, if they think there should be more against rifles, more against handguns, or should the focus be, of course, on combating crime, violence, and gun smuggling. And guess what it said?
Yeah, the evidence is clear.
The evidence is clear and overwhelming that Canadians never asked for any of this. So when they tell you that Canadians demand that, it's a very, very small group of people asking that. We know exactly who they are. So
and when you
definitely not the experts.
And when you have a national poll, it's all about the questions. Do you think we should ban assault weapons? They're like, they don't even know that they were banned in 1977, right? So of course it's like, 80% of Canadians. Well, yeah. Anyway, we talked about that before, but they have all these consultations and they turn around just like Bill Blair did with contrary evidence from his actual consultation and did exactly what he wanted to do anyway. Yeah. So you were consulted. What I mean. We're going to do what we're going to do even before. We're taking the same decisions, making the same decisions we did before the consultation. Anyway.
Yeah, they're just going to do it anyways.
It's a joke. But anyway.
Yeah, it's sort of a wasted exercise. It's futile.
Yeah, unless you spend millions and millions of dollars, then you don't get to do exactly what you want. If you spend that money, you get to do what you want anyway. All right. So yeah, it was just a really interesting story. Oh, you know what? Just a surprise. This is
surprise.
Where's that? I know I'm kind of throwing a wrench in here, but where was that other quote that we found interesting since this is the podcast and not the TV show? Oh, here it is. I got it.
You got it?
So Mendocino said, the ability to use firearms safely and responsibly for food security, for self-protection and preservation while on the land, are all things that we can accomplish.
Well, that sounds
self-protection.
Self-protection.
I don't want this to be America, mister.
Yeah, you're sounding a little bit American there.
Yeah, well, it's just logical. It's like that's how reasonable people should speak, right? But anyway,
absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, we beat this to death. We got to keep going.
Okay.
Now,
move on.
All right, here's the big news. All right. The ScrapC21 project from the CCFR. So Tracy and I just did our segments for the television show, and how we did it was we kind of talked a little bit about what the problem is, because we don't want to just be like, the CCFR is doing this, like for no reason. No, what is the problem and how are we responding to it, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about the problems, and then we're going to talk about how the CCFR is responding to it. So if we're trying to stop Bill C-21, what are our challenges there?
Well, of course, the best way to do that would be a new government. That's who repeals or writes regulations or laws. But unfortunately, we're not at that moment. So we have to work with what we've got. And the most important thing we can do, and I sound like a broken record because we've been saying this since our inception, is we have to educate non-gun owning Canadians on what's going on. And the reason we have to do that isn't just so they understand gun laws better or whatever. It's so that they apply political pressure to politicians because they no longer support their BS, right? So that's the most important thing, is having educate Canadians so they no longer support the politicians' policies, and that applies direct political pressure to them and changes course.
Right. So those two things are related, and it's going to get a little bit washy, but you're gonna see where this is all going. So, in response to that, educating the public, getting gun owners involved, getting lots of people. We'll talk about mobilizing, getting a larger political force, but also putting pressure, exposing the government for what they're doing, actually, not what they're saying they're doing. What can we do to counter that? So we have created ScrapC21.ca. So that's the main site here. So www.ScrapC21.ca. And so that's a new website. Basically, when you go there, there's a list of things for you to do and every single tool you require in order to do them. So a couple of things, I'm going to talk about some highlights. So we have released 6 new explainer videos. So basically they're based on 3 scripts. So 3 of these explainer videos will be the whiteboard explainer videos that you're all used to, and they're excellent. They really are. They're really, really good.
Yeah, they're great.
And then those same scripts are done in the digital format. And the reason why we did that is some unsuspecting Canadian may watch one of those whiteboard explainers, be like, oh yeah, I've seen this already. Oh, this is a new one. This looks different. And it's the
Right.
same information. So they'll actually have 2 shots at it to absorb what's going on, right? The government's lying to you. They're banning hunting rifles and shotguns and 22 caliber rifles, and they're naming variants. So it could ban all, and you got all the proof to that as well. Also, we're going to be, and those videos will drive people to ccfrdownload.ca, ScrapC21.ca, of course, and also gundebate.ca. So I'm going to talk about those other sites in a second, but the main one is ScrapC21.ca. Now, we also have a meme campaign. So we've created 30 or 40 memes, silly ones, relatively serious ones, and then more artistic ones, so that you will have all of these images, social media images, these social media placards, in order to respond in replies and stuff. And with our videos too, I'm going to talk more about that in a second, but you'll have all these on your computer to respond, so that this information, exposing them, like, here's what Mendocino or Trudeau said, here's the actual gun that they banned with the page number and everything on, of the amendment. So here's the lie right there, and drive them to scrapc21.ca. We also are releasing, probably by the time this is the podcast, so it'll be next week sometime, a media FAQ. So this press kit basically is something that we'll be sending to our list of around 600 people in media, in mainstream media in Canada. And basically that kit will have the things that the Liberals have said, the claims that they've made, the evidence that what they said is completely inaccurate, including like, here's where you'll find the information in the amendment and in the bill, and real questions they should be asking, because the media make this up as they go along. Like, here's what I think a governor would want to know, or here's what I think a member of the public would want to know. And it's like, well, no, here's what you should be asking, and here's where they're lying. So they can't hide behind like, well, we didn't really know, we're not experts. Like the CCFR sent it to 600 of you, and it's posted on their website. So you should have that information. And then there's another letter writing campaign. So why don't you talk, because I've talked lots. Why don't you talk about letter writing and why this is important as part of creating that political pressure?
Yeah, so we've got to reach a lot of people, because we need a massive political force, not only to go out into the social media network and just totally saturate social media. And I mean, like, go to every tweet and post that these people make about this topic and just reply with it, just splash it everywhere. But we also need all those same people to do the letter writing campaign. Now, we did bury their desks in letters. That's still on the CCFR website, and it's fine. But if you go to scrapc21.ca, there's easy step-by-step instructions telling you what to write, who to write, and why you're doing it. Now, we don't need to write a novel. This doesn't need to be a big thing where people, I need somebody to proofread my letter. Literally a couple of sentences explaining why you oppose it, what you're upset about, and then a very direct demand to withdraw C21 in its entirety. That's got to go out to your MP, which you can find on there. It's got to go to Marco Mendocino, Justin Trudeau at bare minimum. And then, of course, we've included the email addresses for all the members of SECU, the Public Safety Committee. So if you can do that, and then, you know what, even in another week, do it again. The idea here is it needs to be like an avalanche of mail. So just sending 1 or 2 letters, super important, but just keep doing it. It's free to send letters to their House of Commons address. All of that stuff is in there under the letter writing campaign section, scrapc21.ca.
Yeah, so keep in mind, like it's for an MP, a local MP, let's say like the guy up in Yukon, for him to get 2 letters or a couple of messages at his constituency office from a gun owner, he's like, who cares? That's not going to cost me my seat. But when he goes there and there's 5,000 letters, and then 2 weeks later there's another 5,000, he's like, I'm going to lose my seat.
Yes.
I'm out if I don't deal with this. That's how political pressure is applied, and this is how we're going to do it. So all, like as Tracy said, all the information's there. One-click access to the contact information for your MP, one-click access to find your MP, MP voting records, all that stuff is all on scrapc21.ca. Now, It's really important that we get that huge political force, just like we just talked about. And how we're going to do that is we got a couple of initiatives. Number one is the range poster project. So basically, we've created 2 full-size posters. I think they're 17 by 22, if I'm not mistaken, but they're full-size, real posters. And one of them tells people how C21 affects them and its amendments, and the other poster tells them what they can do about it in a short list and directs them to c21.ca. So basically, we want every range that is interested in getting these posters to contact us through this form that you see or through the email that you'll find on ScrapC21.ca. And basically, we will send 4 sets of these 2 posters to any range that requests them, and 1 set of these 2 posters to any gun store or any other business that requests them. So for the first 100 ranges or gun stores that request them, the CCFR is footing the bill for that. We will probably cost us about $50 to send those out. So we will send those to them free of cost, and you put them up. And that gets all the people that aren't on social media, that aren't on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, all that stuff. Get them involved and get them writing letters and whatnot. Really, really important.
Really important.
And then the other thing that Tracy was talking about is flooding social media. We've created CCFRdownload.ca. And this is something this was on my project list for a long time, if you remember, Tracy. But I just never got it done. Now it's done. So basically, it's one thing to share links on social media. People don't like it because not on every social media platform do they actually run that video. When you look in the replies, it just shows up as a link, and people don't like following links. There's so many of them. Well, now you can download all of the explainer videos in English and in French. You can download our reports. You can download positive gun owner video shorts. You can download all the memes directly onto your computer at one click of the mouse. It took a little bit to do that, but direct download links. So you can get that all on your machine. And so when you're on Twitter and you want to respond, you can actually respond with a video embedded right in the Twitter app, on the platform itself, or a meme or any of those things. You can take them all and use them as your own. So it took a lot of work, but we put all that stuff.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Because you're right, to follow that link and go see what the video says and watch. People won't do it, but if you just comment and it automatically sort of starts playing.
It's already running. Right.
Yeah.
And the Facebook, and of course you share them on your social media as an original post, not links from the CCFR. So really important. So we got a lot of content there that you can have. Now, at the end of the day, we got to get rid of the government.
We do.
That's the answer, ultimately.
Yeah. And I mean, with this minority government, they could fall at any time. We have no idea when this election is going to be. I would bet the farm that we are not going to last till 2025. In fact, I think we'll be in an election next year, but we'll see. I don't have a magic 8 ball, right? But we do need to get rid of this government, so we need to be election ready. So what do we do to be ready should an election be dropped at any time?
Right. So we've talked about a little bit about this before, but there are some new developments. So for the last couple months, we've been starting our next election project, just so it wouldn't be so much work to do should it, a snap election be called. And so if you guys remember this brochure, we distributed whatever there was, 230,000 of them.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen this before, then it's got all of the Liberals' scandals in here since they showed up since 2015, all the rest of that stuff, all in a nice little full color book. And we have a website called liberalref. Meaning liberal reference, a reference site, liberalref.ca. So you can go there and verify that every single stitch of information in that book is true and find out where that information came from. We are going to be updating that site, creating a brochure that's probably 40% bigger to include all of the latest scandals, because there's always a new one with these people.
There's so many.
Oh, yeah. It never ends with them, right? And we're going to be we're targeting 500,000 of them. And we've done it before now. We know how to do it. We have a distribution network set up, and we have all the materials. So we're doing all that. But in addition to that, we are creating individual 2-minute and 20-second videos, the digital videos like we saw with the new digital explainers that I just showed you a screenshot of, with an individual video for every single scandal the Liberals have been involved in since 2015. So there'll be a catalog of 15 to 20 videos by the time they call an election, so that you'll be able to do the same thing on social media you're doing for the ScrapC21 campaign. You'll be able to do for the actual election campaign, along with probably another 40 memes, along with a whole bunch of other content. And all that will be available on CCFRdownload.ca as well on top. So this will move the needle. And of course, we want to triple. Triple.
triple.
And then the chop, right? The karate chop. So we want to triple our social media and mainstream media budget as well. So we're hoping to make sure that we have enough money in the war chest to do that. But we want to make sure that we're flooding. You cannot hide from Trudeau's scandals and inadequacies and incompetence. Yeah, and we think that all this will be a huge campaign. We're hoping to spend around $500,000. That's what we're allowed to spend as a third-party advertiser. So anyway, we're hoping to hit that limit this time.
Oh yeah.
So there you have it.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's been a lot of work over like a month, 5 weeks or whatever, right? And we started just before Christmas. So it's a big campaign. Again, you can get started on all of this by going to ScrapC21.ca, start looking through that list and participating. Literally, if people just spend an hour or two every 2 weeks being their own advocate, send your 3 letters, maybe send a letter to every single MP that's on the Public Safety Committee, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe send a letter to every single MP in the country. Some
people have been doing that. I've been seeing them doing all 338 MPs.
For sure. Yeah. Call their offices, leave a message. Just be like, I'm really concerned about it. Be polite, right? We don't want them to use it as ammunition against us. So just be like, I'm really concerned about this. I need you to withdraw this in its entirety. This is ridiculous. Yeah.
I'm not going to support you in the next election.
Exactly.
Neither are my family. Neither are my friends. Neither are the guys I go bowling with or the guys I hang out at the range with. It's not just one person who's affected by these things. And we've really got to work on that domino effect, right?
Really important. So this is what we have for you. We've provided all the tools and we're going to continue to try to encourage you to participate. But I'm serious. If you can put in an hour or two a week, that's a lot of advocacy. If thousands of people do it, man, there's too much pressure to bear, because look at what the pressure that we've been able to create, right? The wildlife federations and their letter writing campaigns and the stuff that CCFR is doing, stuff that everybody's doing. Look at what it created. Mendocino's running around all through the holidays. Yeah. Running around, taking photos. Like, oh, no, you got the wrong idea. Lying his ass off, right? Trying to, oh, no, hunting right. Oh, okay, maybe we are.
Oh, now he's talking about exemptions and maybe he'll take them off the list or whatever. Not good enough.
Yeah, we need to protect your hunting heritage now. Like, let's see the about face. So don't ever think that you are powerless, but we all need to stand together, and this is what we can accomplish. You're seeing it now, and now's not the time to let your foot off the gas. Now's the time to participate in this project and really put some effort in.
Yep.
All right.
We will do it.
That's what we got.
That's what we got.
Anyway, if you go to CCFRdownload.ca, there will actually be more videos being uploaded there all the time. I'm thinking I might post some of those scandal videos ahead of time, because I have 2 already, and the people that produce those are going nonstop. Our project is ongoing there, so probably every week and a half I'll get another video. So I think I will continue to upload stuff onto that site. So I'll let you know in the podcast or on the TV show that there's new content there, and you can go there and start spreading that around too.
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
I love it. It's good. It's got to be like a tsunami.
Yeah,
everywhere.
That's how you change these people's position, and we're seeing it in real time. It's actually happening.
We are. Yeah, it is.
All right. Awesome. Okay, we've talked long enough. Thanks for the update, and I guess we'll see you in the next episode.
All right, we'll see you then.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for episode 135 of the CCFR Radio Podcast. Thanks for watching. Make sure that you share this podcast. Get your friends to watch it. Tell your gun club to stick it in their email newsletter. Get this information around. I don't know, don't know today, because today is Tuesday. You're going to be seeing this typically on Thursday. I'm hoping I have some time tomorrow to script an entire video about what we're doing with C21 and perform it and edit it and upload it in time for this, so that your gun club or you can share that video specific to C21.ca and everything that we've created there. But anyway, all that to say, spread this information around. It's really important. If we get enough people, like we're already starting to see the result of more of the community standing up and opposing C21 and its amendments. It's actually working. So the more people we can get involved and the more people do just a little bit, we're talking like an hour a week, maybe an hour every 2 weeks. I'm just like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to get on social media, I'm going to do some replying, I'm going to post a few things, and I'm going to write my 3 letters and send them off. Do that once a week. Man, what an effect that would have. You know, if you can imagine 300 people downloading all the stuff that we have on CCFR downloading it and actively getting on social media for an hour a week, putting these replies in and posting videos and posting the memes and whatever. And people like this Terry guy, he's completely confident in making that post. Remember the guy I talked about here in the intro? You go in there and you just post video after meme and all these people doing it. It's just a mountain of evidence that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And anybody that goes into that thread and starts reading, they're like, I'm not going to be like Terry. Terry hasn't got a stinking clue. All he's doing is running around the internet offending people with his own ignorance, right? Then people won't do that. They'll be like, I watched a video, an explainer video, and it said that this could open the door to ban all guns because of this thing called a variant. Is that true? To maybe a friend that knows, and they'll be like, yeah, that's true. Right? So this is how it's done. Can you imagine 300 people making a commitment to do that an hour a week, 4 hours a month for a couple of months? Can you imagine if 2,000 people did it? Like the CCFR dominates on social media. We dominate this conversation on social media today. Like look around, go on Twitter and look on any of the anti-gun threads, any of the government, Marco Mendicino tweets something about the gun ban. Go look in the replies and see what it looks like. We are dominating already. Can you imagine what it would be like with all these tools at your disposal and everybody committing to doing it for an hour a week or something like that? 2,000 people? Forget it, right? Because right now we are actually beating the government of Canada on social media when it comes to the gun ban stuff. So anyway, it's within reach. Also, don't forget, spread that link around, ScrapC21.ca. Send it to your friends, ask your gun club to send that around in their e-newsletter as well. Post it on their social media feeds. Like you need to make those phone calls or talk to your buddies that are on the executive. Like you got to do this. We got to get more people to do just a little bit. But when there's tens of thousands of people doing it, we got it in the bag. We can hold these liberals off until they're out of office because that's the goal really right now. Okay, so that's how you do it. And again, don't forget CCFRdownload.ca. Go there. All that stuff belongs to you now. Post it on social media as your own post, in the replies, all the rest of that stuff. Get your gun club or your gun store to request the posters so we can get even more people involved. All that is there for you to do if you want to do a little bit of work on your own behalf. So anyway, one last thing I want to say, and this is probably the most important. Who's paying for these free posters to be sent all over the country? Who's paying for all of this web development, for all of this social media content development, all this stuff? Who's paying for it? It's the people that support the CCFR. So the work that we do as an organization, supported financially by people like you that are contributing to us either on a monthly basis or just as a member or tossing us $10 one time. Those are the people doing this work on behalf of all gun owners. Because if you're a gun owner, this is helping you. It just flat out is. So I just want to say thank you to everyone that is supporting us and allowing us, giving us the privilege of doing all this stuff on your behalf. Because as a gun owner, I wish I could do all this stuff. I would do it for myself, but I couldn't do it by myself. To save my own guns, not me saving everybody else's or you save. Like I couldn't do it for myself. So you're allowing me to do that for myself. So thank you for all your help. That's all I want to say. All right. I babbled on long enough. Thanks again for watching. Share the podcast. Check out the website, ScrapC21.ca. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.
This is another episode of the CCFR Radio Podcast. Remember, if you don't stand up for your own ability to own and use firearms, who will? Join the CCFR or donate right now at www.firearmrights.ca.